I'm going to go ahead and open up the February the 18th, 2021 virtual regular meeting of the North Augusta Planning Commission. Welcome, everybody. We're going to start off with a roll call like we always do. And I will call your commissioner and your last name. If you then state your first and last name for the record. Commissioner Key. Present. Commissioner Mackey.
Joanne Mackey, present.
Thank you. Commissioner Watts.
Larry Watts, present.
Great. Commissioner Crawford.
Commissioner Christine Crawford, present.
Great. Commissioner Clark.
Bob Clark is present.
Fantastic. Commissioner Carter.
Lynn Carter's present.
One of you. And Britton Williams. Fantastic. Approval of minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the January 21st, 2021 study session or regular meeting minutes? If not, they will be approved as distributed. Mrs. Hodges, do we have any changes in the agenda or anything in particular?
I have no changes.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll jump right in. I think this may be the first meeting the whole year that we haven't had a variance or something wild and crazy. So we're basically here for the West Marktown Road Corridor Study. And Libby, I'll open it up to you if you want to kind of lead us in this of how you see this going.
Okay. So I think what I would like to start with is just to kind of go through the study itself and some of the recommendations so that we have a framework for what we're talking about. And then once we do that, we can move into our prioritization and any discussion about funding, if y'all want to make a recommendation to City Council about funding. So I'll just go ahead and jump in. This is all stuff that you've seen before. This is the presentation, or most of the presentation is already up on the website at northaugusta.net. Just to go over some of the history of the project. The project was awarded in January 2020 to AECOM. They were to conduct a corridor study to review traffic operation safety, assess conditions, and project future traffic conditions. They broke the study down into 3 scenarios, which is the existing conditions, the no build 2040, which means that if you make no improvements until in the year 2040, what your level of service is going to be. And then build 2040, which was based on the information that we've gotten from developers and developed information or past developments that we've had that impact the corridor would be to assess those conditions in 2040 as well. So I just want to be clear that traffic counts were done really prior to when the pandemic hit. So the pandemic numbers, we understand that, yes, they will be lower, but these counts were done prior to that. We did truncate the project list due to past NOBCON. The impacts and the intersections were really not contributing a lot to the corridor. So we had initially picked that endpoint because that's where the sidewalk ends on Marktown Road. But since it wasn't adding that much to the traffic, we understand that, you know, we can add sidewalk. That can be part of the plan, but it really didn't need to be part of the larger traffic impact studies. So here is where the final study report is placed on our website right now, Marktown Road Study. We are providing an online comment entry form, and we've received a few, and I'll read those out later. We also have a hard copy, just to give you an idea of what this looks like in printed form. This notebook is the study. Wow. So that is here, at the planning department if you want to come and read it in person. So just to kind of go through the existing conditions, so we know kind of where we're talking about and what we're talking about. Up at the north end of the corridor, this red outline here are the limits of the study. This is Gregory Lake Road at the top here. And this is Knobcone down here at the bottom. And you can see the I-20 intersection here at exit 1. But just so we have an idea, when we start talking about westbound versus eastbound, this side of I-20 is eastbound. And this side of I-20 is westbound. Just to give you a kind of closer up look in case you need it. Here's where Knobcone connects to Marktown Road here. And this is Hammond Pond Road is right here. This is where the original limit of the study was, but it was truncated up to Knobcone Avenue. And here's an aerial just for additional reference. And this aerial is a little closer. So here's Knobcone, and that's Old Plantation. The I-20 intersection there, exit. And this is some of the same aerials with the study limits imposed on top. This is your Willow Wick Apartments right here. This is your I-20 area with your frontage road coming out here. This is the gas station. And here we have Knobcone coming out in the West Martintown. And here's True North down here at the bottom. And this is Old Plantation Road. So I'll go through the summary of their recommendations for each of the projects. It's broken into 3 time frames. Near term is 2020 to 2025, and those are indicated as in projects on the project list. Intermediate term from 2025 to 2035, which are I projects, and long term, which is 2035 plus, which are noted as L projects. Now, these aren't hard and fast categories. There may be projects, depending on when development happens along the corridor. Some of them may get bumped up sooner. Some of them may get bumped down lower. Some of it depends on, how we fund this. And if it, like I said, if it's tied to development. So this is a simplified chart showing the final build out, which this would be 2040 plus. It shows the roundabout at Gregory Lake Road, the light at Bergen Road is a dual lane roundabout at the I-20 westbound off ramp. The loop ramp still remains for both of the westbound and eastbound. It shows the addition of a dedicated right-hand entrance onto the I-20 eastbound ramp. It shows the light at the I-20 off-ramp at exit 1 and the Hamrick Farms driveway 1, which that's in progress right now. And it shows the other improvements along, dedicated some cross control, access control down the middle of Marktown Road at the frontage road, which would be turned into right-hand only, as well as the realignment of the roads down here at Old Plantation and the addition of a light at Knobcone. And we'll go through each one of these again, one by one. And I know y'all have all read them and kind of seen it, but this is, I'm doing this presentation kind of for the benefit of the public who may not have seen the plan. So on the near-term project list, we have the Bergen Road light and the I-20 westbound off-ramp light. Those two are currently in progress. So we didn't worry that much about ranking them. They're already paid for. They're literally being built right now. Most of you have seen the I-20, the traffic lights at I-20 that still are in bags. The rest of the projects are mainly related to Hamrick Farms, which would be is a proposed development across from that exit 1 going towards Knobcone. The next would be the intermediate project list. This includes the Gregory Lake Road roundabout, dual lane roundabout on the I-20 westbound off-ramp, reconfiguring frontage road to a reduced conflict intersection, and the right-hand only turn out, Knobcone Avenue traffic light, and sidewalks along Knobcone Avenue to Hammond Pond Road. Long-term projects would be to make access across Marktown Road onto a new leg of Old Plantation Road to align that with the proposed traffic light. To restrict access to Old Plantation to right in, right out after the new connection to Knobcone. And to develop a parallel road connecting behind what we know of as the River Falls apartment complex around to Old Plantation Road and eventually to the new connector with Knobcone. So what that looks like on our maps, this would be the roundabout at Gregory Lake Road. And just as a FYI, none of these have been finally designed yet. These are just the recommendations from the traffic engineer. So this would be project I-1. This would be project N1, which is the light at Bergen Road, which is already in progress. The double lane roundabout at I-20 westbound off ramp, which is I-2, project I-2. And I just want to note in here as well that he's showing some green space medians here. And that has been one of the goals that City Council has mentioned a couple of times, that they wanted to try to find some ways to dress up especially at our gateways coming into the city. So this actually the roundabout previous as well as this roundabout would be a way that we could achieve some of those goals as well. The next is the light at Hamrick Farms and the off ramp for exit 1. That obviously is in under construction right now. This also shows the restriping to show this dedicated right-hand lane to go onto the eastbound on-ramp. And that would be in concert with improvements to the Hamrick Farms development. There would be another driveway back, driveway 2 to Hamrick Farms. There's a very good chance that would end up being a right in, right out only, just to make y'all aware kind of that is happening. So here's that driveway 2 as well. This is potential Hamrick Farms driveway 3. You'll notice along the median again that there's more access control at the final build out. That is to control access across Marktown Road to limit how many conflicts we have with traveling cars, especially pulling out and going left, or pulling out here and going left. So that helps reduce those conflicts. And it would also include reconfiguring, maybe even all the way down to the knob cone light, figuring out a way to allow for U-turns so that you could come out and do a U-turn and go back. because that's going to be safer than just pulling out and across. That's where you run into a number of conflicts there. This also shows the new connector here from Knobcone and the potential to eventually connect back. There's a number of property, there's quite a bit of property back here that currently has no access. Either frontage road kind of dead ends at it. And we're also going to be adding these apartments in here. So the impact coming out frontage road onto Marktown Road is going to be pretty significant. I don't know if y'all recall that from when we did the site plan approvals for that particular development.
Those development roads, were they requiring any condemnation, or they were going to be willingly bought? I mean, willingly sold, rather.
Say that again?
Those roads that you had on Knobcone coming through and connecting to the sites you said that did not have any connectivity or didn't have access to, those roads going through those woods, they're owned by private individuals, correct?
They are.
And so you're not going to have to, it's not going to be a hostile condemning of the property to get the roads, or how is that?
We're not even close to having that discussion yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's
And
something that we'll deal with.
This is the one in 20 years from now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just something that if we're going to do it, it would be good to go ahead and plan for instance, for the light to be a four-way light, or have the ability to upgrade to a four-way light instead of just designing it for the T intersection and not having access to that at a later date. So we have some general bicycle and pedestrian recommendations. The intermediate project I-5 would be to connect sidewalk all the way down Marktown Road. Make sure that we have crosswalks from especially if we're going to go forward with, the development right there at exit 1. There may end up being some foot traffic that goes back and forth to the gas station or to other residences in those apartments. So making sure that we have good sidewalk access. It also would be good to have access for bicycles down those roads. That's a moderately flat stretch for a little ways anyway, before you kind of get into the hilly part of Marktown Road. But we really need to be looking for ways to connect this to our greenway system and connect it all the way down to the high school as well. Just thinking bigger and thinking longer term. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, especially shared lane markings. Most of the time right now, SCDOT standard is to do a slightly wider road so that you do have bicycle access all the way down. And by adopting this plan, should you choose to recommend that, we will forward that information over to SCDOT, and they'll understand that we expect a slightly higher standard for some of this area. So just to explain why we're even talking about this, plan adoption helps us ensure that the plans, any further development along Marktown Road is actually developed to this plan and to the standards that we set as the city. I think without the adoption and the formalizing of our wishes as the city, we don't have a guarantee that SCDOT will allow or endorse the types of improvements that are recommended by our transportation engineer. It also helps facilitate staff taking these adopted plans to our funding partners to help secure funding for these projects. Especially if we're going to look for other funding options or grants and things like that. Adopted plans usually really help with scoring, if there's, any kind of ranking criteria. And it may also help with improving our scoring and our ranking for the arts improvement system. So assuming that we get all the way through adoption, staff's plan from here is to submit all of these projects to arts and ask them to re-rank most of the projects throughout our neighborhood, throughout our region. I mean, probably most likely it's going to be 5 to 10 years before there's any funding available, just based on current spending from SCDOT for the projects in the TIP. I have also asked and provided a little bit of information to you about local funding options, and if that's something you wanted to request or recommend to City Council. So just to kind of reiterate, since we've kind of been all through that, we are requesting public comment right now. We have received a few comments. This would be the second kind of cycle of public comment. We did one at the beginning of the project as well, and got a lot of comments, which is very, very good. It's very helpful for us as we develop these projects. Just to let everyone know, the public comments may address general support or opposition to projects, statement of a preference of order of projects, recommendations for specific improvements or details related to the projects, and recommendations for specific funding or resources related to projects. And this is how you end up can go and make these comments. I wanted to point out the initial public comments that were gathered from April to June were in Appendix G. So those have all been published. They're all online. You can send comments to planning@northaugusta.net, or you can go to the Marktown Road Study website, or you can call us and leave a verbal comment if you would like. So we can get into some discussion. I have some additional slides about funding options if you want to go into that. But I'll let Britton steer it from there.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of correct me on this, Libby, but just as a little, I think, first of all, thank you for your efforts here. Long-term thinking and planning is something that we need to have, and I appreciate your efforts spearheading this initiative. But we're really looking at this as a planning commission, really like a 30,000 foot view. We're going to give some ideas of how we kind of see some of the recommendations, but we're on the very much of the front end of this, because this is going to get flushed out by council, and then back, Libby, to you and your department, and then you're bringing in a lot of different areas and other people as well. So what we're going to talk about tonight and what we're going to hopefully recommend to council is just what we're seeing at this point. We want them to focus on. Is that correct?
Yes.
There's going to be a lot more down the road for this. It's not as if what we're going to recommend to council next month, they're going to accept and we're going to start building. I mean, this is very much a 30,000 foot opportunity for us just to kind of be aware of what's going to be happening down the road.
Right. This is very long term. This is to gauge your support as the planning commission, as the appointed body who reviews, studies, and recommends items to the city council.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we ought to, if you want to maybe talk about, I don't know if you got any more of the commissioner's priorities. I mean, why don't we do something like that now, or open it up? Let me do this first before we do that. Are there any initial discussion or anything that anybody wants to say on the commission before we look at how everybody prioritize these and just kind of start going through that? Any initial conversation anybody has? What's your thoughts on what you've seen and read and looked at?
Well, Larry and I both actually, and I guess you would also, Tim also does, but I actually live on this piece of land. And so I see a lot of things that a lot of others don't see. So when I did mine, it's for me reacting to what I see in the mornings, what I see when they have a ball game, what I see when kids are leaving school, and things like that. One thing I was going to bring up, and you can just stop me when you're ready to stop me, but the Gregory Lake Road roundabout concerns me a little bit, and I'm just going to throw this out. That is actually a major timber transportation route. And some days there will be 20, maybe more trucks, Larry can correct me, bringing timber from down towards Edgefield into town and then over to Augusta. And I just wonder how a roundabout is going to work for that. So that kind of concerns me, of those trucks getting in there and then that lumber or timber flipping off, and then we have an accident every 2 days or whatever. I said that I wanted to see us, do some things to really and truly get lights, like that light at Knobcone. I know it's pushed way out, but that light to me is very important. So I didn't know if Libby had any way that can be discussed more to be moved up, or is that just not possible to do?
No, that's what we're doing tonight. So that's one thing I'll just say. And I was looking at the prioritization, as I started looking at these near term, intermediate, long term, I kind of got clarification from Libby, because I felt like there were some items. If you look at my prioritization, I actually ranked on the intermediate, I thought were more important for us to move forward on, and Knobcone would be one of those. So, we don't have to necessarily state, we have the control to say, yes, council, yes, Libby, we want to look at, so we want to move some of these items up. So we have that ability tonight. So we don't have to stick and say, oh, gee, we've got to get Hambrick Farms totally developed before we deal with Knobcone. Because I think Knobcone is definitely a priority, in my opinion. But anyway, yes, Joanne, you're right about that. So do you have anything else to say before I let someone else?
Well, I wanted to see if Larry, because I know he's worked out on the other side up near that roundabout at Gregory Lake. Can he hear me asking this, or what does he think? What does Libby think about that roundabout? Do you have any concerns about that roundabout, Libby or Larry?
Well, I agree with you, Joanne. I hadn't really thought about the number of log trucks that come down that road, but you are right. There's a lot of them that come down there, and I guess they're going over to the paper plant on the other side of Augusta.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they would handle a roundabout. I hadn't really thought about that. Personally, I like roundabouts.
I do too.
They've got a number of them down Amelia Island, and it really makes the traffic go so much better when people know how to negotiate them. But I think you've got a good point. I don't know how the log trucks would negotiate the roundabout.
Well, I actually didn't, Larry, come up with it myself. My daughter brought it up because she said, what are they going to do with those logging trucks? And then today, Forrest rode with me because, of course, he used to ride his bike down Marktown Road. And he said, I don't know how that roundabout's going to work with those trucks. And, some days there are no trucks, and then some days there are 40 trucks. I mean, it's whenever they're working. So I don't know that someone that would come to do the study would even go, well, what about these trucks? But I'm just saying that would be something that would pop up later, and we go, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So that was just something, Libby, I wanted to make you aware of.
That's a good point. Larry, you want to continue on any other thoughts you had from what you looked at? You want to share now?
Well, when I drive that road every day, and there's a lot of cars that turn into Gregory Lake Road. That's a relatively busy intersection. There's a lot trying to come out. It's nothing compared to what's up at on the other side of the gas station where Bergen Road comes out. I mean, Bergen Road right now, and I know that that's not something we need to rank, but it'd be really good when they get that light in. I've seen at least 2 accidents there in the last 2 weeks. So people are trying to get out in the morning and they're running, and I guess the cars are just coming too fast down the road. But Knobcomb, in the afternoon when his kids are trying to get out, it's a busy intersection too. And I don't know. I guess it's kind of a flip up, which one's more important. But both those intersections are used a lot.
Okay, good. Commissioner Key, any thoughts you had from looking over just initially that you want to share? I can't hear you. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
I was thinking about the roundabouts, and I thought that was pretty neat, but I did not really think about the trucks until Joanne said it, and I would ditto on that. There's no way that would work there. And then all of the other roads that are connected into them, trying to get into that secondary road, that would be pretty rough. That Knobcomb, I come out on Old Plantation Road, and it is a beast during rush hour. I normally come to work late and leave late, so a lot of times I don't rush. I don't get there during the rush hour, but when you get into traffic from SRS, coming in the morning and leaving in the afternoon, in the school, that is a intersection that needs to be given some care, like right now. So I would prioritize that being pretty high.
Okay.
The Gregory Lake, I don't think that roundabout will work, but I would have that secondary. And the neighborhood that's to come, I'm not looking at the time frame. It has that on 20 in the next couple 3 years.
You talking about River Falls?
No,
Hammocks?
Hammocks.
Well, there's not anything definite yet on that, I don't think.
Yeah, so I mean, those were that priority would be the Knobcomb and then Gregory Lake.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Crawford, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, so I think, well, I've been in a roundabout, I guess there's one on the way, if you go like the Pillion way back to Charleston with a lot of logging trucks. And I will tell you, it doesn't have the volume of the roundabouts we're talking about, but it actually is good because if you think about it, the logging trucks are slowing down as opposed to coming to a discrete stop at a stoplight. So in that, the one that I'm using, and I think it actually goes to a plant. So there are always trucks in the roundabout, and it works well because if you think about it again, they can see you, you can see them, and they're slowed down. In my experience, the other was more of a question, which is, Libby, were the things that are deemed to be intermediate, like Knobcomb, was that based on everything in the needs being done first and what changes that may have made, or was it kind of in absence of the previous steps that things were deemed to be intermediate or long-term?
I hit it once. I must have muted myself. Sorry. They don't necessarily have to go in order. The bigger picture was to look at everything in concert and make sure that, we could have a light at Knobcomb and that it wouldn't interfere with the next light somewhere else. And just to, you may want to finish your comments. I have some responses at the end. I've made some notes, so.
That was all. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Carter? Lynn, yeah.
Let me unmute myself. I guess when I ranked them within the boxes they were in, which was probably a mistake. I should have written what you did and put them all in order, because I do feel like as well there's some other projects down the line that probably should be pushed up. The roundabout at Gregory Lake with the log trucks, Larry and Joanne that made the point, those are very active. And then when this is built out completely, it looks like there will be 2 roundabouts. So you're going roundabout, red light, roundabout, if you're coming down Marktown towards the bridge. If I'm not, maybe I'm missing that, but they're going to be another roundabout at the exit.
That's correct.
I think so.
That's what's currently proposed, yes.
So you're going roundabout, red light, roundabout. So that, and then the other thing that, this is going to help Tim out. I think that probably the connector for Old Plantation needs to be pushed up, because forcing all of those to go right out of Plantation is, first off, they're not going to do it. I don't think they will anyway, unless you're going to force them that way, but they're going to make a U-turn somewhere and come back. So I would almost say we need to push that up a little bit too, to try to get it on the books, because that's a pretty large group back in that area that may need some access. The other part, like I said, the log truck thing is interesting that Joanne brought up and Larry brought up. I hadn't really thought about it, and I'm now in the timber business, but we don't do much of it that way. But and then Christine said that what she's seen in her look, that it seems to work. So, I just have a fear of somebody coming down Marktown at a high rate of speed, trying to make a roundabout and everything flipping over in the middle. That's the only thing. Doesn't concern me going the other way necessarily, but coming down Marktown, towards downtown would be the only issue I have. But I think that there's something that needs to be pushed up to try to, the red light at Knobcombe, we need it. The red light off the exit ramp, we need it. So that's kind of where I am.
All right, Commissioner Clark.
Well, I agree. It's not that's Old Plantation is a big issue, but it's not going to be quick. I guess at Knobcombe, you could always put in a traffic light that works during the morning hours and the afternoon hours, and becomes a flashing red and yellow the rest of the time, like the school zone, sort of. But it might be a way to relieve the rush out of Knobcombe without just backing up Marktown Road for it. But anyway, just a thought. I don't know. Roundabouts, in my experience, the ones I know of in Ohio, where my daughter lives and all, they're on major thoroughfares, and they seem to work. Trucks make them, but I agree that there's the potential if they don't slow down. I don't. Yeah, that's my thought.
Okay. So, Olivia, you want to respond? I think you're kind of heard. I think we're indirectly beginning to get a little bit of consensus on a few of these. So, any response you'd like to kind of share with us from what you've heard and give us some direction going forward?
Sure. So just to touch on the roundabouts a little bit, timber truck, large trucks, they are taken into consideration with the design of the roundabout. So that is taken into consideration. I actually have a video I can show you guys if you want to watch. Larry may be at a little bit of a disadvantage here, but if you want to watch a little video on how it works, they actually have a portion of rolled curb that trucks kind of just roll around. It gives them a little more area to turn. So that is part of the design. And large trucks are taken into consideration. Just as an aside, the Hamricks Farms is, as far as I know, they are still working on getting approvals from SCDOT. So I believe that a light warrant study is going to be part of that part of that traffic impact analysis that they're working on right now. Certainly, if we want to look at different ways to incentivize having that placed through local funding, that's something that could be part of your recommendation to city council, but that's at the commission's, that's y'all's decision to make about that.
Tell us, just kind of bring us up to speed where the status of Hamrick's farm, what exactly is that we know at this point is going to be made up of that? What is it not? I mean, just kind of, we're talking about a lot of investment in that land. So kind of tell us what you can tell us, what's happening or what you're hearing, seeing, or what we're dealing with. So we kind of understand. That was my whole part, was trying to fully understand the prioritization of it, knowing what's really coming now, or are we talking about 8-10 years later?
So I can't completely answer that question because I just don't know. We do not have any construction plans currently in.
Okay.
We've had several meetings with them, and I know that they have been working with SCDOT to try to make sure that, you know, our plan aligns with their driveway plans, aligns with their development plans, but I haven't really completely seen all of their development plans yet. So I have limited knowledge of exactly where that is. I guess, you know, if we got construction plans in and they were approved in a few months, you know, they could be breaking ground by this fall, even, you know, if they really paid attention and, you know, got through the system, got through the development review part. But since we don't have anything yet, it's hard for me to answer the question.
But is that, well, I guess what I'm saying is that development for the entire piece? Is it part of it?
So we have
That
two.
guy came in front of us at the end of one of the meetings talking about wanting to put some apartments and some different things up there. I mean,
And hopefully their traffic analysis will take what they want to do into consideration. So, and that's part of why we wanted to do the study, is so that we would be ready. And we would be able to easily tell them what improvements we preferred. We meaning the city preferred. There are two parcels currently. There's a general commercial parcel on the front side, and there's a PD for that is technically called Hamrick's Farms on the back side, and that is has been previously billed as mostly a single family residential with a little bit of commercial. So if they decide to come in and change that, you know, that will all have to be reflected in their transportation plans or transportation studies.
okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No,
but
that helps. No,
not the best I can do.
That's what I'm trying to say. So that you've answered it. Okay. Okay. So how specific do you need us to get tonight with our recommendation? Do you want us, because I think what I'm hearing so far is we are not looking at, I guess what I'm saying, how important is it for us to put a number on every one of these? Because I'm hearing that there are several of these that currently they have listed as intermediate that we're saying might be need to move up sooner. So just kind of, we've never done that before, so give me some idea of how you, what you're looking for.
No, that's fine. I think what's important here is that if there are projects such as Knobcone and the old plantation, you can just very simply say, you know, our recommendation is to move forward with the plan as shown, or with whatever deletions, with a preference to move forward with, you know, whichever projects are of a higher value.
Okay. you know,
Louis, could I ask you a couple of questions?
Certainly.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
How extensive was the plan as far as bicycle access, bicycle lanes? I know there was some talk on sidewalks, but I didn't really see anything that I read talking about the bicycles. Was that a part of the plan?
It was mentioned at the end. It's not, since these aren't final designs, it wasn't part of, the sketches that they drew. If that's a recommendation that you would like to take forward, I would recommend also including that with your recommendation, to say there's a preference for to make sure bicycle access is connected through, and to explore ways to connect to the greenway, that sort of language.
Well, I think we definitely should be thinking about that and encouraging as much as possible. I was really glad to see in the little seminar yesterday about the bicycle access to Charleston Moves, and she made the comment that the director of South Carolina DOT had signed in that they were advocating complete streets as a something they're going to encourage from now on. And I think as a city, we should be really pushing that hard too.
Can I add something to what Larry's saying there?
sure.
Okay, so I know, I raised my children on this street, and it's always been, oh my gosh, don't get hurt, don't get hurt. If we're talking about sidewalks and bikes, we need to work, and we need to make that knob cone light a priority. If you already have people pulling out, and I'm just saying, you have young drivers pulling out at 3:00. And I think almost every one of us sitting here has had somebody in our family pulling out of that portion of that road. So to me, I love the idea of the sidewalks. I've always wanted the sidewalks. But if we add a walking person and a bicyclist, and we have no light at knob cone, we are asking for someone to really be hurt. And I think that light, now that you're saying these things, that light is really a priority in my mind. That we've already had, like Larry said, a friend of mine was in a bad wreck this week at Bergen Road. And so if we can take care of that, and we can take care of these other items as they go. Hamrick Farms is not even completed yet. They may have to change where their entrance goes. We've just had some things like that come up, and you will think you've got your whole life planned on a subdivision, and things will change. But there is not going to be a change of how those kids leave that high school.
Right.
And people leaving that street for other reasons. You have people at Bergen Road trying to get out, which we've already got that approved. But the thought of having someone walking down a sidewalk or riding a bike past my house and then going in front of that knob cone, that is just asking for a tragedy.
Yeah. Good point. Just to kind of, and Tim and Christine, y'all jump in here in a second, because I'm going off, and Larry as well. But this is just real down and dirty looking at the prioritization that we did have from me and Joanne and Bob and Lynn. Just kind of looking at it, not real scientific, but just with the prioritization numbers that Libby gave us, I would tell you that, and what I'm hearing is that the knob cone and Plantation Road as one or two, the I-20 westbound off ramp, the Hamricks, that's number I-2, and then Gregory Lake. Those are kind of the four that jumped out, Libby, that I looked at just from how the four of us ranked it. And I think hearing from Christine and Tim and Larry, I think there's some similar sentiment of that. And then bringing in the sidewalks, if we're going to do the knob cone, does make sense. So with that being said, Christine, Tim, any thoughts on that? Does that look like those 3 or 4 items kind of make sense from what we were talking about?
No, I think that they do. And my only other question is, does our recommendations around funding, does that need to be a part of it, or is that a separate, do we need to do this part first and then we're going to get to the funding piece? Is that?
I think we can do it either way. If you've got something in particular, I'll just throw out for myself, as far as, in my opinion, on some of this funding, this is, in my mind, where the 1 cent local option sales tax comes in play. And if I'm not mistaken, the city is in sales tax 4. And I believe that probably in 2024, the city will begin working on sales tax 5. So I think there's probably been some conversation from council in the past about looking at that as part of the funding mechanism on some of this. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just throw that out for that piece of it. I'm not familiar about any other conversation on any other funding. So yes, if you have some insights or some things that you want to talk about, let's do that. But I think it might be helpful to let's look at where are we on these initial 3-4 prioritizations, and then we can, yes, your point, we can then talk about the funding.
No, so I'm good with the prioritization, as you mentioned, moving that into the immediate needs category and addressing those that are already been identified. So adding those to immediate, I'm good with.
Tim, what about you, sir?
I would agree. Matter of fact, my daughter had an accident coming out of Old Plantation going to the left. And it is a beast. So the lights that will slow the traffic up from knob cone, as well as the lights that are being put down, will give a little break. So I think the way in which you prioritize them, I think that's hitting it on the head.
Okay. Thoughts, Lynn, and Joanne, Larry? I didn't ask you, Larry.
I think it would be fine, Britton. I think it's fine.
Britton, I wanted to add this comment. I had prioritized for number 1, I had prioritized the N-4. And I'll be honest with you, Libby, I only put that as number 1, $10,000. And I thought, come on, we can come up with 10. So let's just go ahead and knock that one out. But really and truly, to me, a real one would be the other one. But I mean, if that's a dangerous situation that needs to be fixed and it only costs $10,000, I will be honest with you. That's why I ranked that. It was so cheap compared to the millions.
We all did, yeah.
Same.
Anything you want to share about that, Libby, on that one?
So that one will be more important when we actually get some motion on Hamrick Farms.
Okay.
So I understand, quick, cheap and easy. Yeah, fine. But right now there's nothing for it to connect to. So it's not as high a priority right at the moment for me.
Well, then I could change my opinion of that also.
Okay. All right. So, Libby, let me ask you this. Would you be fine with us giving you a top 4 and 5 prioritizations, or do you need us to literally rank every single one of these just to have them in some order?
I think top 4 or 5 will be just fine.
Okay. So let's talk through this, make sure we're on the same page here. So what I'm hearing from y'all and from looking at the data of the prioritization, I think we all agree that I-4, which is Knob Cone Avenue, is a top priority. L3, that is the frontage road to Old Plantation. I-2, which is the I-20 westbound off ramp of Hamricks, and then I-1 Gregory Lake. And if we're gonna move forward with the knob cone piece, then from what Larry's comments and Joanne's, which does make sense to me, we probably need to be moving up let's see which one that is. I-5, which is the sidewalks on both sides of the connector. I believe that is, yes. So that would, to me, that would be almost that would be the top 5. So it'd be a knob cone, Plantation Road 1 and 2, sidewalks 3, Gregory Lake, and the I-20 westbound off ramp Hamricks, Gregory Lake as the top 5.
Say those again, Brent.
That
Say that one more time.
What?
Do it one more time. Number
Okay,
1
sure.
is going to be 1-4.
Knob cone would be first.
Okay.
Plantation Road. Okay.
What number is that one?
That's
That's L2.
L3. Then if the sidewalk and the access of that is important, if we're going to focus on that light there, I would think N6, N as in Nancy, N6, the sidewalk piece would be bumped up. And then with what is happening on Hamricks, then it looks like this I-20, which is I-2, the I-20 westbound off-ramp Hamricks would be moved up, and the Gregory Lake, which is I-1. So that would look like that might be the top 5.
So let me,
Does that, Libby, give me some guide? I mean, is that so skewed crazy, or does that fit some common sense pattern?
let me ask this one question. Is that in the place of, so basically replacing all of the near-term recommendations that they made, or is that in addition to? That's the only point I'm.
No, good question. That is basically moving up from, yes, that is removing basically 3 intermediates into place of the near term.
Okay, so that is getting rid of what they have as near term.
Well,
it
not
wouldn't-
getting rid of it, but moving it up.
Right, but moving it down.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Right. So what that would mean is that when I go to arts or whatever funding mechanism we use, when I go to them to ask for money, if I'm given the choice, say for instance, I have $1 million instead of or $800,000 instead of $1 million, I'll automatically know that, okay, with that amount of funding, I want to bump up knob cone. You know what I mean? So that'll give me some more tools just to say, you know, if this is the money we have, these are the projects that are priorities. That
Yes.
doesn't necessarily mean they'll always go in precisely that order, but at least I know which ones I'm advocating for in the transportation process.
Yes, and that's what we want to be looking at, avenues of funding. That's why I want to let Christine share any thoughts she has, because I think she has some comments on that. So, would it be more effective for you, Libby, if we talk about funding and include that at the end of the recommendation, as we've talked about these 5 prioritizations, or does it make a difference? Does we need to have it as a second recommendation?
It can all be part of the same recommendation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type up a memo that basically says the Planning Commission reviewed this study. They recommend that we adopt, don't adopt, adopt
Okay.
part of, whatever the study, with a priority for these 5 projects and with the funding mechanism. You know, if you have different ways to fund different projects, we can talk about that some more.
Okay. Christine, you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share on the funding piece?
Well, no, primarily, I think I just was interested in hearing from Libby, was the impact fees and the capital improvement plan especially now that we've moved some of the pieces that are related to developments down further, is that something that's easily kind of culled together from the other plans and work that we have? Or is that a completely separate endeavor that we would have to undertake in order to use some of that impact fee?
Yeah, talk about that, Liz.
Yeah, so we would have to go through the process of, obviously we'd have to adopt an impact fee. So your recommendation would just be whether or not we would like to look further into that. When it comes to impact fees are generally used, you have to kind of say what you're going to use them for. So if we have this list of projects, that would go into a separate fund just for those. And the capital improvement plan, it's just a shorthand for, this is the list of projects that we need, that we have, and this is where we're going to apply the money as we get it. And there may be some more legal requirements about you can only spend it within some area, some distance from, the funds that you collect or something like that. We'd have to work through some of those details, but we currently don't have a full capital improvement plan. Our engineering department does have some lists that they're working towards finishing. But we would need to be specific about where we're going to apply those funds.
I just thought that
Larry,
it was an interesting way, since a lot of this is around not just dealing with traffic that currently exists, but traffic that will be created by developments. And so I just thought that it was an interesting way to offset some of that. And so it's kind of, so if I understand it correctly, it's kind of like with the developer, but in a different way of getting to that, the developer contributing. So.
I have a question. Go ahead. I had a question about the money living. The Knobcon Avenue, to have that signal, and I know we're changing lanes and things like that, but that's $1.5 million. But the Bergen Road and the I-20 ramp was 150, but it was $2 million to get the I-20 off ramp. I mean, why is that so much difference on the money?
So for the Bergen Road funds, the cost that we had was only associated with upgrading those to mast arms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the eastbound off ramp, I don't know that we actually had any contribution to that right at the moment.
Okay.
That's been done through Georgia DOT as part of the I-20 bridge project. So that may be where those costs are coming from.
Okay. But is it possible, if there's not that much money, I mean, I'm just talking like somebody that's at the grocery store thinking or whatever. I know this is going to be very elementary, but if we can't come up with all of the money, is it not possible that we just get a traffic light at this point? Or you don't do it that way? We need to have the entire project. You can't just break it down and say, we can't afford this whole project, but we do see the emergency of a light.
So there may be some cost savings that we could make. Sometimes we call it value engineering. But my guess is the part of the cost of this is some of the access control on Marktown as well. That kind of goes in conjunction with Knobcone. And right. I mentioned earlier that part of what we want to do is we don't want to just build part of it and then have to undo it to add on as we, may connect across Marktown Road at a later date. So some of it's getting ready for the next part of the project as well. There's also some engineering challenges. I know you know that intersection really well, and it drops off the road there. So there's some challenges associated with that site as well. And
Okay,
these are all just estimates. These have not been engineered. So we may get further into it. We're required to do feasibility studies for SCDOT. We may get further into it and find out that it's more, in all honesty. So these are just estimates.
okay.
Libby, this is Larry. Are we currently doing any impact fees with developers on projects like this?
No.
Okay. I know at one time we did have impact fees in the past, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I think that that's something that City Council needs to at least look at. Just like Hamrick Farms, you know, it's going to that development is going to impact that area right there a lot. And I don't think that we can not do these improvements. And I don't see how we're going to expect a 1 cent sales tax, the way it's used and all throughout the city, to be able to use it alone to do this stuff.
Yeah, no way.
So just to clarify a little bit too, if locally we do not add any fees, basically what ends up happening is it all falls to the developer to do these improvements. So it's not that the improvements won't happen, it's just we will have no involvement in it. We will have no control over the timing. Hopefully with adoption of the plan, if that occurs, we will have some control over the actual projects that happen. But just to clarify that just a little bit.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts or comments before I try to butcher a motion here? Unless somebody wants to do it. All right, so I would make a motion that we would take the Marktown Road corridor study, and we reshuffle the prioritizations that is on the initial study, and we move up for our first prioritization number, I-4, L3, N6, I-2, and I-1. And to be looking at funding mechanisms as far as the city and local, whether it's coming from the arts, any type of capital funding, or possible impact fee development impact fees as funding mechanisms. And then the other items would be pushed back further. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay, so Commissioner Williams, the chair, made the motion. Commissioner Mackey seconded. Any discussion? Okay.
Britton, I don't know if you want me to read the comments that we got.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you mentioned that earlier. I apologize. We got off on this. Yes.
It's okay. It's a lot to
what
think
we're
about.
saying, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, just to read over them real quickly, and a lot of them are fairly serious. Chris Morris commented that I-20 westbound exit ramp is a disaster. No one yields. Knob could use a traffic light with all the high school traffic. Gregory Lake Road intersection could use a slow down of some sort. Debbie Arflin wrote, I agree completely that something needs to be done with this stretch. Traffic is heavy and fast. I live in Savannah Barony and getting out into Marktown Road is a challenge. Realigning Old Plantation Road to align with Knox Avenue, I think she means Knobcone Avenue would be great with a red light. Jonathan Turner wrote, let's do it. I'm in favor of the roundabouts. Go get it done. I love the enthusiasm on that one.
Mhm.
And Denise Vaughn wrote, would love to see a red light on Martintown and Bergen for safety. Too many accidents at this location. So
I don't think
That's
we've
what
ever
we do.
had so many comments that use the word love.
that's not
So
what we
I
usually
think we're
get here.
getting as far as a small sample, I think there's a consensus of this recommendation. So, with that being,
frame those.
yeah, exactly. With that being said, let's take a vote. I would ask you to say yes or no. I'll start off with Commissioner Key. Yes. Commissioner Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Watts,
Yes.
Mr. Crawford,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
and Britton Williams is a yes. So that passes unanimously. Okay, staff reports.
Hey, Britton, it's Bob Clark. Just want to clarify something and get Libby's opinion.
Okay.
Impact fees limited to the actual property itself. I mean, could you say, we need a light, you gotta fund it if you're gonna dump all that traffic onto Knobcone or wherever? I was thinking about the one over there by the cemetery, and, you know, that was mandated that they had to pay for widening that road so there'd be left turns and make it safer. Can you do that with an impact fee, or is it pretty much limited to the property?
So the way North Augusta has done it before is it was tied to a PD. So there was a fee included in the PD, either per lot or just an overall fee. So they've done that before. So that kind of limits us. If we don't have a PD, we don't have that tool. An impact fee, it can be written a lot of different ways. So you can do that just broadly across the whole city. Every time somebody builds something, you know, you pay an impact fee. That sometimes that's used for school funding and some other stuff. But that's, you know, we would have to go through the exercise of hashing that out with city council.
Yeah.
And what I was saying earlier is that, for instance, the property on 5 Notch, SCDOT required them to put that in. And in order to get access to SCDOT's road, they had to put that improvement in. So
Okay.
that's where I was kind of talking about, you know, with this plan, and if you have a priority and you want me to go after it, we can have a little more control about the timing of the installation of some of these items. Otherwise, we wait until Hamrick Farm starts to develop and SCDOT makes them do it.
Libby.
But we don't have any control when it happens, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the discussion of the impact fees and how that all plays out, does that fall under the realm of the development code rewrite at all with any guidance? Or is that something we just, as a city, municipality, government, do on our own with council? Or does that tie in with our development code rewrite, or is that just something we would deal with separately?
It could potentially tie in. It might be something that we talk about separately just because of some of the political implications of it.
Okay, I just curious. Okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing
but
we need to
that's-
bring up to them while they're doing this now. That's not okay, you answered my question. Something later.
Yeah, I don't think immediately, no.
Okay. Okay. All right. Staff reports.
Britton, you're trying to tax our developers. That's what you're doing.
What'd you say? I can't
You're
hear.
trying to tax our developers. That's what you're doing. Did you hear me?
I
Yeah.
can't hear what you're
I
saying.
heard you.
I said you're trying to tax our developers on the slot.
No, 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 no. For growth.
All right, so just, January staff, performance report. I won't read through all of it, but we remain busy. I do have a few staff items to add. We will start setting up appointments for you all to get your surfaces. That's your little tablet device that we purchased for you. Over the next few weeks, I'll start sending out invitations. We have some, waivers that you need to sign, and I'm going to try to bring you in sets of 1s and 2s, or on your own, depending on your comfort level, to go over how to use it, and how to access Dropbox and some of the pieces and parts that we have on the surfaces. So please be aware of that. That's coming to you. Just a real quick update. Y'all are aware that we're going to be updating the comprehensive plan this year. We plan to go ahead and start moving forward on that because we need it done by the end of the year. We've been in contact with the Lower Savannah COG to do that project at a very, very good rate. And I don't think that there's really anything for the Planning Commission to weigh on at this time. We'll look more carefully at, some of the work plans and stuff like that when we get to that point. But right now, our plan is to just ask council to go ahead and allow us to spend the money that we have allotted for that project. We have several other transportation projects and studies that we have on the schedule for this year. We are waiting for SCDOT to get back to us on our local agreement. And as soon as we have those, we're going to start moving forward with that. I would imagine that the adoption process will be very similar to what we're doing right now. So this is good practice for you all. And I appreciate you kind of bearing with me through the process. And that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Any other final comments from anybody before we adjourn?
Yeah, Libby, can you send that? You said you had a video. Can you email that link for the around?
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Yes, if you could do that, that'd be great.
I can do that. I can actually just set it up to play right now if you're interested.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's do it real quick.
Okay.
Let's do it right now. It's not long or anything.
No, it's not long. Take me just a second to pull it up.
Lynn Carter doesn't have anything else to do this evening.
It's got, if you've got 4 minutes, and I'm sorry, Larry, you're at a little bit of a disadvantage. I can email that to you so you can see it.
Well, I know how they work and I love them.
Okay. But this is from Pennsylvania DOT.
That middle is not for pedestrians. That is there for support. Kill right there. Oh, that's tight. Hurry up. Wow. So they build those circles strictly as access for them to get right up on top of it.
That's correct. I hope that makes y'all feel a little bit better about the design.
Maybe.
I don't know.
All right. Well, anybody want to say anything about that before we adjourn? All right. Thanks for all y'all do. Be safe out there. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
No.